thank you very much for clicking. We're glad you're here today because we want to talk about one of those very important conversations and topics in financial planning, which has to do with beneficiary designations. And it sounds so mundane, and yet those two words can actually completely undo hours and hours of planning and thousands of dollars worth of planning in one silly pen stroke. And this is one of those things that people don't necessarily understand, but the courts have made it abundantly clear that the beneficiary designation that you signed for whatever your account was, it supersedes your estate plan. And so if you wrote a wrong beneficiary somewhere that doesn't go with your estate plan, that can make a real mess, Tim, and I'm sure you've seen this.
Imagine working for 30 years, accumulating dollars that is meant for your family, and you forgot to change your beneficiary from 30 years ago from either mom and dad or God forbid, an ex-girlfriend, for example. You're absolutely right. The beneficiary form trumps, if you will, your estate planning documents. So really, you step back before you get into the technical terms, is we want to make sure that your hard-earned money goes to the people that you want it to go to.
And the thing is that when people get their plan, they've talked to their planner, they've got all of this rolling around in their head, they get instructions from their planner to do this needs to be this designation, this needs to be that, and then they stick it in the drawer and walk away and either forget or don't execute. And that can be a real problem.
I like to call it the financial planning junk drawer. We all have that in the house, right? A bunch of different things.
Right, the bills.
The beneficiary form goes in there a lot of times, but you're absolutely right. Not only do we want folks to have a really good estate plan, meaning documents that they go to see a professional, maybe a living trust and a will and powers of attorney, but the beneficiary form is just as important, if not more important, right? You said courts have said that determines where dollars go.
Right.
So we want to make sure that your beneficiary designations are coordinated with your estate planning documents.
Right. And also you want to make sure that they're updated on a regular basis because life changes over time, it evolves.
Yeah, so our planners during our annual meetings with clients actually list out who beneficiaries are. And it's amazing, sometimes they say, oh my gosh, I didn't know I had my sister. Just yesterday, unfortunately, a client said, my sister's showing early signs of dementia. It's probably not a good idea to have her as a beneficiary. So we change it. But if you're not reviewing it each year, life happens and you may miss something like that.
Right, and so it's one of those things where you need to stay on top of it. And also, like for instance, somebody could do something as simple as, okay, I want my trust to be the beneficiary of my IRA or my 401k, thinking that you're doing the right thing, when in fact that creates a tax event.
Yeah, it certainly goes back to that coordinating with your estate planning documents. And I like to say, you might spend $2,000, $3,000, $4,000 on your estate planning documents, and a beneficiary form is free, so somehow it's not seen as important as those other documents. But it's very important to make sure, we call it funding your trust, and making sure that your beneficiary designations are aligned with those documents is very important.
And when you go down the list of the things that get beneficiary designations, one of those things is your bank account, which comes with what they call a POD, payable on death. So whoever is either the beneficiary or whose name is on the account gets that money, right?
Absolutely. So a lot of times people will say, should I put my son or daughter on my bank account? Well, when you do that, you actually put their creditors as a potential owner as well. So a better option generally is this POD, payable on death, and it's nothing more than a beneficiary designation, but very effective and very important to do.
But it's one of those things that can come up and bite you if you're either unaware or you're not paying attention to it. And so that's one of those things that when you get to your planner, you say, okay, well, here's my list of beneficiary designations. This is what I've done. Does this square with what we've talked about?
Yeah, and you're spot on, making sure that depending on what you do with your trust, for example, you may name your trust as the beneficiary of an IRA, or it may make sense to name individuals. Again, that's part of the overall plan that your financial planner will guide you through.
So this is one of those things that you really ought to be looking out for. And so, take it up with your planner the next time you get to see him or her. Thanks for watching.